the prophet translated it in less time than that. So don't be too proud of yourself. Quite miraculous, really, through the gift and power of God. We have a lot of suggestions about how it was done. We know that they had a table like this. We know they had the golden plates covered usually, and Joseph used these the Urim and Thummim, seer stones in the hat, and it was easier for him to see the light when he'd take that position.
Travis Wayne Goodsall. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has missionaries go out around the world to tell people about the exalted human beings, Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ. So they're human, mortal, physical, bodies of flesh and bone, as tangible as man's, and yet they're homuzion, not real. From Roman Emperor Constantine and the creation of Christianity with the First Creed. The creation of Jesus, the naming of him as Jesus, and his nature and character, homuzion. It's not a word. Doesn't exist. Constantine made up the word to describe the nature and character, because none of the bishops that were forced to be there or lose funding for their congregations would give up the nature and character. They gave up the name, they gave up the religion, they gave up their scripture, they gave up their creed to explain their scripture. And I'm talking about one book. I'm not talking about a collection of books. And so they wouldn't give up the nature and character. So Constantine said, homuzion, let's go home. He told Mommy, and then Mommy said, ooh, everything's now literal history? Oh, awesome. I'm going on a vacation tour and naming all of the places that are now literal histories. And so the nativity and the birth, the death, and the Golgotha, the tomb, all get named by the Queen Mother, Helena, not Hera. And so the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints says, no, we do not believe in the First Creed for the nature and character of Jesus. We believe the name is Jesus. We believe that he's the Christ. We believe that the scriptures are also literal histories. But the nature and character, we're going back to those who believed in Perseus and Hercules. We're selecting that nature and character. And so it's half human, half immortal, called exalted now. A physical homuzion. That's the official position of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. If they don't like it, they shouldn't have said it. So, September 6th comes along. And the BYU professors are finding out evidence from church history that contradicts the church's latest version of church history. They found out that Joseph Smith had a rock and a hat. They found out that he got arrested for that rock and a hat. And they found out that that's what he used for the creation of the Book of Mormon. I mean, translation by the gift and power of God. And they were fired and excommunicated by the church. Oakes would come out with a Deseret News statement to that effect, that there's a church service, or not church, Strengthening Church Members Committee that's in charge of spying on all Mormonism. to report to bishops and stake presidents who are failing to do their job to spy on their membership, to keep them in line, keep them active, and to activate them by firing them and excommunicating them. That ought to keep them in the church by kicking them out. And the reason why is because what they learned is that by calling the first vision a literal history, with the physical evidence of the rock and a hat, these faithful Mormons who got hired at BYU, had to be interviewed by an apostle, were trying to reconcile this. They believed the church was true. Why would the church be lying? It can't be possible. There's got to be some explanation. They can harmonize both, the physical and the homoousion. Joseph is now a witch. Thus they got fired and excommunicated. Joseph Smith is talking with the dead, necromancy, and is a glass looker by looking at his rock and a hat, just like a witch who looks in a crystal ball. But we all get a crystal ball when we go to the celestial kingdom. Section 131, or no, 30, I think it is. Everybody gets a crystal ball and a new name, above and beyond our already new name. New name written. It's so true. And so the prophets fired and excommunicated them, not because they called Joseph Smith a witch, but because it threatened their authority as leaders of the church. If Mormons start believing that Joseph Smith is a witch, then Mormons will then expect that the living prophets of Jesus be able to do the magical powers of homoousion as the leaders of the church, with the gifts and powers of God. Well, it's the official church statement that they deny the gifts and powers of God. So they can't have Mormons believing that they have the gifts and powers of God when it's their official statement that they deny the gifts and powers of God. It's mantle titles. And they don't claim translator. And so this was causing a problem. And so I've told you this story recently when I was at Institute up in Canada. Missionaries asked if I would join them with a woman who was investigating the church, and she was meeting with the missionaries and attending church on Sundays, as well as meeting with Wiccans. And she told us, I'm deciding between your church and the Wiccans because they're both similar. She recognized from the missionaries talking about the first vision that is witchcraft, if you're going to call it literal history. As homoousion, physical homoousion. And so, yeah, she was studying over with the two to decide which she was going to join. Hopefully she joined the Wiccans. Because she wouldn't be accepted in the church. Nonetheless. And so after this, with the firing and excommunication, Mormons now had to reconcile how faithful Mormons working for the church at BYU could be fired and excommunicated for church history. And I still remember seminary, right before it all hit the fan, being told by the seminary teacher that Joseph Smith didn't like using the Urim and Thummim. So he figured it out so that he could use his own mind. He didn't need the Urim and Thummim anymore. His mind was able to do it all. I still remember that. That it hurt his eyes. And I could relate. Because in 8th grade, I was trying out for the school baseball team, and I was put out in left field. And Coach Perez was hitting fly balls to the outfield, and after hitting one to me, and I caught it, threw it back in, he yelled out, "Get glasses or get off the team." I caught the ball and threw it in. He recognized that I was slow to respond because I couldn't see the ball. I had already known about this from back in Placentia, California, where the teachers did the color test on us, and I was able to fool around and make myself different colors of the rainbow simply by answering the questions differently. For the most part, I was white and blue, or a mixture of the two. The red and yellow personalities I really didn't want to be, and really wasn't. And so the teacher put me at the back of the classroom, not just because of my blue and white personality, but also because of my large stature. There were kids complaining they couldn't see because of my head, my body in front of them. So that also stuck me in the back of the class. And so I'm stuck between yellows and reds in the back of the room to divide them, but keep them back of the class, which is actually the wrong thing to do. You need to use the art of the war to keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Thus, the troublemaking kids, you put them at the front of the class so that you can keep an eye on them and kick them when they act out. Nonetheless, that's what psychologists were telling the teachers back then. Let's experiment on kids. And so, yeah, I recognized my decreasing vision of being able to see the chalkboard. And so I'm, paranoid and scared. I'm going blind. I could go on to learn about this with the Old Testament of all the blind men who have magical powers of Jesus to give patriarchal blessings as blind. And so, yeah, it scares me as a kid. I can't talk to my mom about it because she'll make a deal of it. And so, yeah, I just kept quiet about it, did a lot of squinting. And so when it started to affect my baseball career, which my dad had already told me I'm good for nothing and I'll never make it into the professional leagues, for which my basketball coach was pissed at the banquet. I graduated and was going to head off to Rick's. Where's Rick's? Do they even have a basketball team? He had groomed me to go to UCLA. I betrayed him. They've put several boys into the Laker organization, and they knew when a kid is going to be good enough for the pros. That's why they were pissed with me. But my dad said I'm good for nothing. Can you imagine if my dad actually supported me the whole time? I would have tried harder and would have been far better. Parents suck. Nonetheless, you got psychologists working on the parents, and you got the church working on the parents to abuse the kids. It's got to stop. Anyway, nonetheless. And so, yeah, Mom got me glasses, and I quit the team anyway. I'm not going to sit there and be abused. Especially with she got me the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar glasses. You know, trying to make me feel better about them. Because there were sports glasses that I could stay on my head better than regular glasses, so that I could play. And so my first time out in basketball, because that's what they were actually grooming me for when I gave up baseball. It's because of my large stature. They forced me to go onto the basketball team, but before it even began, the Stan Lowry incident occurred. And so I rode the pines for most of the year, and I thought this was a waste of my time. I can't make a basket, and I can't practice with the team. What's the point? Coach said, well, we want you to play for the high school team. That's why we're doing this. So yeah, that's how good they were at coaching. From a guy who couldn't make a basket, couldn't make a free throw, to getting pissed with because I couldn't, or I was going to Rick's, giving up a career as a Laker. And Lakers were my team. Still to this day, the Lakers are my team. Even though Michael Jordan's Bulls, I had to give respect. I have to consider Michael Jordan the god of basketball. But nonetheless, Lakers are my team. And tragic as it was with Kobe Bryant. So yeah, I keep on the news when I hear about it. Going on my mission took me out of sports and watching them. After the Pleasure Dome. And it was mostly just for the boxing matches that Horsley and Feet, that's his name, Feet, Elder Feet, yeah. I remember now. There we go. Yeah. They were in the district and they came over to watch the big boxing match that occurred in '89. I'm sure if I were to look it up, I'd see what it was. Do we dare? Let my presence be known to Google. So I understood about how glasses were uncomfortable and didn't fit right and hurt my eyes. Well aware of that scenario. So I related to Joseph. And so, while I wait for Google, trying not to forget where I left off. 1989 boxing match. Tyson and Frank Bruno. Is that it? Was a legendary era for boxing, defined by massive heavyweight title defenses among the four kings. Sugar Ray Leonard, Hearns? I don't think so. I think it must have been Tyson and Bruno. Let's see if we can. There's a Wikipedia page on it. Holyfield. See, the date of when they occurred will be the big tip-off. March 11th was the Dokes Holyfield, so that wasn't it. It would have been after May. Holyfield and Rodriguez is a potential candidate here. July 15th. Because it was with Gale, not the other two, Miyazaki or the Polynesian. I can't remember his name. I only remember Vaitai because my companion was the one who told us that Elder Vaitai said every day is a P-Day. And so it's not Holyfield and Stewart. It wasn't Sugar Ray. I would have known if it was Sugar Ray. It could have also been, well, maybe it is Sugar Ray Leonard and Thomas Hearns. But I don't think it was Sugar Ray. I was aware of Sugar Ray in the 80s. So it must have been the Holyfield Rodriguez, where Holyfield knocks him out within a minute. Let's see if that's the case. Because I remember Feet and Horsley being pissed that they blew all their money to pay for it, and it only lasted a minute. It says round 10, so that can't be it. Wow. So what was the other one that was on? November, February. Was it Sugar Ray? No, that doesn't. No, that couldn't have been. No. It says June 12th. It was a big one, but it's telling me that these are the options. The fight ended in a split draw. How long did it last? The whole thing, I guess. So that's not it either. March 6th. No, that's August. That's March. Tyson and Bruno, February. So it wasn't him. Tyson and Carl Williams, July. Okay, so let's check this one out. Four years, blah, blah, blah. Unanimous decision, so it went the distance. So that can't be it. Oh, nope, wait a minute, the fight would only last 93 seconds, that's it. There it is. Yep. Second quickest over his Michael Spinks takedown. Yeah. So that's what it was. It was the Mike Tyson versus Carl Williams on the 21st of July, 1989. 93 seconds. Yep, that was it. So let's get this for my history, my journal. I am still recording, aren't I? Yep, still recording. And we'll download the file for my mission scrapbook. It's also where I learned about Dream On. I related to that show. All right. So, Mormons are now being told Joseph is not a witch. We need to get that out of our head. Because you'll get fired and excommunicated from the church for saying so. And so Mormons then create in their own mind, because this is what people do apparently in order to justify their conclusion. Church gave a conclusion, and it's the one true conclusion. So all your premises now have to fit the conclusion. That's not how you do the scientific method, but the church doesn't believe in the scientific method. Right, Oaks? We don't believe in the laws of physics. And so Mormons were now promoting Joseph Smith as a human. He's not a witch. He's a human who has connections with the divine. He's a human, and so the stories about Joseph Smith as a boy having the leg surgery by the family member of his mom from the college that Hiram was educated at. And so in order to pay for it, they brought cadavers to the school. Oh, you don't know any of that? You've heard about grave digging, treasure digging, and other stuff? Do your research, or just say you don't know. Don't say that somebody said that Joseph did. Do you not understand what hearsay is? And no? Great. And so all these stories about how Joseph is just like us, and the church is pissed again. Why? Well, because if Joseph is just a human, then so are the living prophets of Jesus. And you have to respect them as the leaders of the church and obey them. And so this is not working well. And so leaders of the church now are talking at the pulpits of conference about the humanization demonology of Joseph Smith. Mormons should cut it out and stop it. We'll excommunicate you. Joseph Smith can't be human. He was specifically chosen to communicate with the divine. And so Christians who convert to the church, being told that it's all about Jesus, are now leaving the church. the revolving door of the church, complaining that the church is focused on treating Joseph Smith as God. And they're not talking about Jesus anymore. So the church now backs off. See, if you're going to deny the gifts and powers of God and yet claim that you're not human, there's some problems. You should have been honest the whole time. That would have solved the problem. That would have solved the problem. But Oakes made it worse. Some guy named Denver Snuffer was up in Idaho, taking a whole stake down in the surrounding stakes. And so Oakes goes up with the church history person from the 70s to go put them in their place. And Oakes has already been interviewed by the BBC, saying that it's wrong to criticize leaders of the church, even when that criticism is correct, and that nobody should record him. Don't you quote me. And this is why. Because he was quoted. He was recorded. And a full transcript was made. It's called The Boise Rescue. Boise, Idaho devotional, June 15th or 13th. 13th, 2015. Quote, modern apostles are called to be witnesses of the name of Christ. Despite the Living Christ document they came out with. In all the world. Quote section 107:23. And so, of course, we're led to believe it's Jesus. And we're not told about the first vision. AKA the first creed of Christianity. That's why we all skip it when talking to a Christian investigators. Skip verse 19. And so he then says, this is not to witness of a personal manifestation. So, wait, what? Then what was the first vision again? You've been telling us our whole lives that the first vision was a personal manifestation. Hinckley got up at the pulpit of conference twice to tell priesthood leaders it was a personal manifestation of physical homoousion. And here you come out and say, no, it's not a personal manifestation. We don't see Jesus. What the bleeping hell? What's going on with this church? What the hell? To apostates who need to be activated. who are ruining the numbers of the church. And he tells them that there is no physical being, Jesus. But calms them down by saying, of course, apostles are also witnesses of Christ, just like all members of the church. Who have the gift of the Holy Ghost. So wait, are we back to witchcraft again? Is it the warlock priesthood? Can I be Harry Potter? No, you're Voldemort, Travis. I had fun with a direct descendant of the first wife of Brigham Young. While working for the church at the distribution center, now called the Humanitarian Center. In which she talked about how she loved the Harry Potter movies, complained that they weren't following the book as they should have. And I joked with her my subtle British humor way. You do know that's witchcraft, right? Yeah, I've seen them, they're fine. It's for kids. But it's fine. I got the whole collection. But I'm just teasing. A faithful extremist Mormon, a direct descendant of the first wife of Brigham Young. Nonetheless, that shocked her. She now had to reevaluate. Oh no, do I have to give up Harry Potter? And I'm sure she didn't. Yeah, Mormons are more focused on the visual, auditorial, and verbal idolatry, and do not pay attention to the secret-coded evil, or what's called backmasking nowadays. But prior to my day, the records, which were still available in my day, but the records, you could play them backwards and hear Satan's voice commanding you to do things. The good old days. So yeah, people didn't like the cassette tapes because you can't play them backwards. So thus, digital with backmasking. Oh, God. So yes, Oakes caused great confusion with this, as he's confessing that Jesus isn't real. It's all just a figment of our spiritual witness feelings. Museon. It's not me, it's Oakes. Don't punish me for what dumbass Oakes did. And now he's the leader of the church. So when he says stuff, you need to pay attention to what he says and take it in the context of what he's already said. Because he has a specific intention and meaning that you have to interpret him correctly. Because otherwise you'll get deceived by him with his little play on words as a former prosecutor. Which is hilarious. I don't know if any of you caught it, because it's a breakout video now, after replacing the one from Monday, because of the attack by the YouTube employee refusing to process my video, so I posted it twice to try to bypass him. And so the first one was a breakout, but it's now dead. And now a new one is emerging, the one about the Danites. And I don't know if you understand that Dan is the Hebrew for judge. And there's Oaks as a former scout judge who gave orders to Cox to put his lawyer in scout to replace that woman caught in adultery. Stoner! Stoner! Sister Mayor Homewrecker Mendenhall got a pass. But not a scout judge who voted to turn Utah blue. We can't have that. Mormons are already exodusing this church in mass numbers as a whole ward in West Valley is gone. That's the fourth. To add to it, to the Valley of Exodus. Oh, hilarious. So yeah, the video I did last night about Adam-on-Diamond, yeah, I hope you guys caught that. I noticed that I didn't adjust the time of the picture for the thumbnail to make it last for a little bit longer so that you can see it, because now you have to pause on it in order to see everything that's on it. I try to make those last long enough. Sometimes when they're repeated, I shorten the time. But I hope you guys know you have to push your little phone to pause the video. I'm confident you're more knowledgeable on using your phone than I am. I don't even use it. It's still on my hell. Spam attacks have disabled my phone. My voice messages have been filled for 3 years now. Always filled. I tried in the beginning to delete them all so that I'd have room for people to leave a legitimate voicemail. No. And despite just letting it go for 3 years, still to this day it's always full. And it deletes after 30 days. It doesn't last long. I gotta respond to them quickly or they delete them. And yet still deleting them every 30 days, boom, 3 years and it's still full. I can never empty it to allow somebody to leave a voice message. Then text messages. Oh my hell. It's at least 5 minutes of all the spam texts that have come in. There is no way I can get caught up on them. Every single time I sneak in the phone to do a forced call that I have to do, and if I don't get the phone call in before it hooks up to the internet to connect all of the text messages that have come in, I then have to sit and wait for over 5 minutes for all the pop-ups to finish. Oh my hell. 3 years of this. My phone is ruined. So no, I do not use my phone for the internet. That would be a stupid thing to do. Anyway, so I joke with you about how I've got rocks in a hat that I can plug them in to my computer to provide you with pretty pictures. And yeah, I can't wear the Urim and Thummim because it hurts my eyes. So, if you ever check out my sunglasses, they're specifically designed not to hurt my eyes. So yeah, I'm the one who took the first selfie. I'm the one who invented the selfie. Do I have it in this file? Or is it still stuck on the computer? Personal me? Yep, there it is. First selfie ever. I invented it. You're welcome, ladies. You're welcome. And so, yeah, the church is in a conundrum, trying to claim a scenario of the first vision that just is causing greater contention and confusion. That Mormons don't know what to believe because they're afraid the church is going to fire and excommunicate them. And so, it was hilarious when one of the apostles brought a member of the 70 to speak, and the church news covered what he had said, the 70 said, is that a prophet explains the words of other prophets. Because we're incapable of understanding what a prophet says. And so we need a prophet to explain another prophet. Well, wait a minute. If we can't understand a prophet, then the explanation by a prophet of another prophet still can't be understood by us, and we need another prophet to explain the explanation of the explanation of... Exactly. And I've heard that before from the lower rungs of Mormonism as a result of this confusion. Mormons would give up and refuse to study because of the fear of termination of membership. I don't dare give a talk. I don't dare give the lesson. I don't dare answer any questions in class. And that is what caused Mormons to sit and be zombie vegetables in class. Refusing to raise their hand, refusing to answer questions, refusing to participate, out of fear that they're going to be considered the wacko in the church. And everybody's going to record them now and put them on YouTube. That's what the church did. And That's why. Right? Right? You know I'm right. You sit in class and you shut up because you don't know the doctrine, because you never bothered to study, because studying goes beyond the mark, and then you become an apostate. You get fired and excommunicated. Yep. 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 And so Joseph Smith, if you'd actually read the words and focus on the words like you did for grade school, where you graph out sentences, this is a noun, this is the verb, this is the adjective, and prepositional phrases got an extension out, verbials. I don't know, maybe you didn't learn that. Maybe you don't know what I'm talking about. But nonetheless, verse 19. I don't have verse 19 here. I have Numbers and 2nd Nephi. Oops. Oopsie doopsie. We need this one. Joseph Smith in the first vision, talking about the first creed of Christianity specifically, and everything that branched out from it. But you can go right to the core. Because when you go to the core, obviously everything else is a continuation of it, and therefore the same, is what Joseph is calling it. So the first creed of Christianity establishes a brand new God that had never existed ever before. And he calls his name Jesus, and he is homuzion, which means not real. Consubstantial in the Wikipedia page for it is without substance, not real. And so when a Christian, or specifically Catholics are the ones who do this, trying to defend themselves on this, you can't. It's not real. So you can't use the physical to explain the not real. Duh. But they'll still try. You'll get those who say it's like an egg. You have the outer shell, you have the white part, and then you have the yolk. No, that's physical. You can't use that. Or a 3-leaf clover. Well, you got the 3 leaves for the 1 clover. They're all one. No, that's physical. This is not real. We as humans in the physical reality cannot comprehend what's not real. And so there's no way to explain it. You just have to have faith without works. And that's where that comes from. And so then they say he's literal history. And that the name Jesus comes from the specific documents of the name Jesus in the Roman period time, not the others in other periods of time, because they've made it all literal histories now. Ooh. So all of the scriptures were written around the same time period. Qumran community, for the most part, were the ones that were accepted. The Gnostics were rejected, so none of those scriptures made it in. Joseph Smith says very plainly we need to include those. And there are other instances of other scriptures that Joseph refers to, but we don't have. Even the Apocrypha Only certain Christian groups, Catholic groups specifically, have the Apocrypha. Joseph Smith says, yeah, we should have the Apocrypha. So why don't we have the Apocrypha then? If we have the section on the Doctrine and Covenants about Joseph Smith approving the Apocrypha, why don't we have the Apocrypha, Benson? Nonetheless, remember, no gifts and powers. They deny them. And they don't even claim the mantle title of translator. That's why. And so this is also where the second coming is created. They have to mistranslate the Bible that they would compose 75 years later than this, selecting the books that conformed and complied. And so thus, it's all literal history now. That's why they put them into the order that they put them into their version of chronological history. And so both the Catholic and the Rambam of the Jews created their timeline of history based on the First Creed of Christianity's collection of books called the Bible. None of that is true. Because again, the First Creed is what Joseph Smith says it is. All wrong. So, when it says we believe in, nope, wrong. Because Joseph says so. We do not believe in a brand new God created by Roman Emperor Constantine. We do not believe his name is Jesus. We do not believe his nature and character is not real. We do not believe he is literal history of the Roman period time. We do not believe there will be a second coming. We do not believe in a Holy Ghost as a personage of spirit. Yeah, that's a forged document too. Spirit is different for Joseph Smith. That's what Joseph Smith means in verse 19 of the first vision. All of this is wrong. And yet our whole church is dependent on all of it but the nature and character being true. We use the name, we have the different God, we believe the scriptures are literal history, we only believe in the Bible, but then have the Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith's visions and extra stuff in the Pearl of Great Price that are now all literal histories. When Joseph Smith himself says, not literal histories. Not just the Bible, but if the Bible is plagiarized in the Book of Mormon, guess what? The Book of Mormon, therefore, can't be literal histories. That's what Joseph is saying in verse 19. Not just his introduction to the Book of Mormon saying it's not literal history. And then the Book of Mormon saying it's not literal history. And yet, and this is why the church has been having a problem trying to push the narrative they've been pushing. Because everybody knows it's homoousion. we should use the Greek in the title, so I'm going to have to do some manipulations here. Because this has turned into a different video than I intended. That happens quite often. Quite often. Because I don't have a script. I'm winging a prayer. Who can it be? Believe it or not, it's just me. Ooh, that is an excellent theme song in the description below. Because he's a human, but space aliens gave him a super suit to be a Museon. And then he loses the rule instruction booklet when he practices the shrinking spell. So the whole show is about him trying to get a hold of the aliens to get a new book. I loved that show as a kid. Because it was a variation of Superman. In case you don't catch on to some of the clues that I'm giving you in the background. Alright, so what the hell is this spirit thing anyway? Well, if you paid attention to the words and believed Joseph, you'd know exactly what he's talking about. Spirit. Seer, prophet, revelator, translator. The gifts and powers of God. It says so by Joseph Smith in section 107, verse 92. 91 is the key of Moses to be the head of the church. We'll get into that in just a minute. That was the other picture that I had that I didn't have verse 19. Joseph Smith in Revelation chapter 12 in the Joseph Smith translation. Technically it's Daddy, for those of you who've been following me know this. Is using this chapter to help illustrate the Spirit and how it works on all Scripture, so that you understand that it's not literal histories. So what's added in verse 1 is for seer, visions, dreams. The first and second vision and the Kirtland Temple visions are visions. They're not literal histories. September 6 already exposed that they can't be literal histories because we found evidence. Joseph got arrested. What are you doing with the Urim and Thummim, Joseph? Naughty boy. That would be an interesting picture. I'm running out of space. Let's see. Oaks hat. Me. Rock hat. There we go. There we go. So they used this chapter to explain how to interpret all Scripture with the Spirit. So, a sign in the heavens. How do you think we get our calendars with Ming Lee today for the weekend and our clocks? Space, the final frontier. From seen on Earth, the celestial bodies move around the zodiac. And from that, man created calendars and clocks. But the universally understood from Earth, no matter what language, no matter what culture, no matter what time period, all you have to do is know the sign in the heavens. And you can communicate from millions of years away and still be understood as to the exact day and hour you're talking about. But no man knows the day or the hour. Guess who put that in the Bible? A Christian who denies the gifts and powers of God and turned the scriptures into literal histories because of the First Creed. This is how you identify forgeries. That tells you a day and hour is about to be given to you. Then they add in the likeness of things on the earth. So it's not real. It's a vision, a dream. And having to do with the sign in the heavens, it's a vision. Because the ancients designated certain clusters of constellations into anthropomorphic and animals and objects out there in space. Virgo is not a woman. That's the vision. Libra is not the scales of judgment. It's a vision. It's just a bunch of stars. And Leo and Capricorn, and Scorpio and Pisces, etc. They're just stars when you look at the sky. The ancients designated the clusters of the brightest to be visions. That's what they're putting in here to explain to you. And so a woman, that's Virgo. There isn't an actual woman in literal history in outer space. I shouldn't have to explain this. And yet, Catholics have to be explained on this. So do Mormons, apparently. And then you see the sun and the moon. No concealing their identity. Because that's a sign. So in Virgo would be the sun. Now, if you knew astronomy from grade school, you would know that the sun currently is in Virgo in the middle of September to the middle of October. Back 2,000 years ago when this was written, it was the middle of August to the middle of September. Things change because of the earth. And so the moon under her feet, moon goes around 29.4 days. Even though scientists are saying the earth is slowing down. That should concern everybody. Wait, what? The earth is slowing? They claim we're not going to notice anything for quite a number of years. But what? And so, in the middle of well, we don't know the day and the hour yet. They're giving it to us. And so when the sun is in Virgo and the moon is under her feet. How many remember the video I did where I went over the Roman period time for the birth of Jesus? Failure. All the potential years. Plus or minus 10. There's no way this is referring to the Roman period time. There's only one possible time. Because right now, this is unique, and you just missed it. This right now, unique. Oops, you missed that. Because of the way they move, as seen from Earth, it will never happen again. It happens only once. That's why it's so accurate of a timepiece from Earth. Or for any planet you're on, but you gotta spend the time to know what they would be for that planet. So Mars, for example, there will be a difference. So if Musk really thinks he can go and live on Mars, he will have to come up with a whole new calendar and clock for Mars. Because he can't keep using Earth's. That would be stupid. And so therefore he'll have to know all about the signs in the heavens and the rotations with Mars as from living on Mars. A whole new calendar and clock would need to be created. And then the further away from Earth you go, the more drastic the calendar and clock becomes. And so on Virgo's head is Leo, and it's designated with 9 stars. There are multi-billions in the area of the constellation Leo and Virgo and all the others. But 9 are the brightest, from which the ancients designated for Leo. And yet the author is saying 12. Which means 3 additional stars called planets. They look like planets, or look like stars, but they're planets. And so there's 3 planets of the 5 that are visible from Earth that are in Leo. Not Virgo, the dumbass who did a video on YouTube about how it was on the 22nd of September 1827 when Joseph Smith got the plates. Did you even check your Urim and Thummim? You were warned in the Doctrine and Covenants not to look in the Urim and Thummim because you will see things that you shouldn't. You need to be taught by someone who has the gifts and powers and the authority to look at them. Don't think you can do it on your own, Hiram Page. Dumbass. Yeah, he left stuff out to justify the date. And this was one of them. He just did Jupiter and the sun. I don't even think he did the moon, but I'd have to check again. I might still have it in this file, so we can check to see if I got it. And so I would have labeled it as such. 22nd September 1827. Oh, I don't. Unless I didn't put September and I put 9/1827. No, so I don't have it on my system. So it's buried in the files. unless... No, it should have shown what the numbers, if it was still in the stellarium labeling. It should have shown up though if I did that one. Yeah, I don't have it in this file. Anyway. Okay. And so we don't know what the three are because we don't know the other two. Then we go on and find out she's pregnant. Obviously she's not pregnant because she's not actually a woman. She's a vision. So you got to find a planet that retrogrades in the constellations for a pregnancy period. Ta-da, Jupiter. And of course it's Jupiter. Because Jupiter is. Nonetheless, so we now know one of the 5 visible planets. So Jupiter is not in Leo. Jupiter is at the star Bethlehem. The star Bethlehem. Remember Constantine's mother? Spica. It's got to be past that. It's got to be born. And thus, by extension, you then go back a pregnancy period to when it was conceived. November. Because this is middle of September to middle of October. I know the date. That's why I'm going over this with you. I have the gifts and powers and the keys, and so I'm teaching you so that you can do it right, Hiram Page. And so, verse 5 is moved to verse 3. Because guess what? Joseph knows the date. The phrase God and his throne. The father of Jupiter is Saturn. Now we know a second visible planet. Oh, there's 3 left. Mercury, Venus, Mars are in Leo. Because his throne is Ophiuchus. Yep, Saturn and Ophiuchus. There it is. A precise 1 day, 1 time only. We know the day and hour. Because the ancient gave a universal clock and date for us that any culture, any language can understand and know. But Christianity covered it up and hid it by turning it into literal history and denying the gifts and powers of the Spirit. 23rd September 2017. The coming of the Christ. But Jesus was in the Roman period of time. Get off my channel. Just go. You're never going to understand. So just go. So verse 7, this is the prophecy, the prediction of the future. But it's still in a vision form. But he explains it. The woman is Joseph Smith's church, because it's the 23rd of September 2017. Joseph is long since dead. And yet he's still saying it's the church of God. Joseph's church. And so it's Joseph Smith's church that brings forth the human, not homuzion. Get off my channel. If you still don't get it or don't want to get it. Who brings forth the Christ. Now, for Christians, this doesn't make any sense. This is of the devil. This is heresy, blasphemy. But a Jew wrote this, not a Christian. It was Constantine in the First Creed that turned this into literal history. A Jew. Jews lost their kingdom, which was a tributary to Egypt, but still, you had the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the great high priest, David Moses III, who visited them. This is literal history, guys. In 1450 BCE, in the midst of a valley of Armageddon with the war against the Hittites. Yeah. Chapter 16 for Armageddon, is it? That's where he gets this from. That's why you see a whole bunch of Egyptian stuff in this chapter and other chapters of John and throughout the whole Bible and other scriptures that were rejected. Everything comes from Egypt. No duh. After his visit to Salem, they built the temple and the palace. For Solomon. Salem. Peace. The city. The N at the end is a suffix determinative in Paleo-Hebrew for king. King of peace. King of Salem. Solomon. Every king of Salem is Solomon. That's his throne name. And you thought it was literal history. And when Babylon came, they conquered, and the Jews could never recover. Because even rebuilding the temple, when the Persians set them free, they still didn't have the land. It was Persians' land. And the Greeks took over, and then the Romans, and then the Christians. Nebuchadnezzar's dream in Daniel chapter 2. The Jews want to know when they're getting their kingdom back. Sorry, you ain't getting it back. because of Messiah ben Joseph. This is Jewish. This is the tradition. This is whom the Jews are waiting for. And so Messiah is Christ, just Hebrew versus Greek. Joseph is Joseph of Egypt. Messiah ben Joseph is the forerunner for the actual Messiah ben David Moses III. He ushers in the Messianic era, preparing the people for the coming of the latter day Messiah ben David Moses III. And it's all throughout all scriptures of the Jews. He is therefore a descendant of Joseph of Egypt through Ephraim, and he comes first because he's the forerunner, and he is to prepare the world for the coming of the final Messiah, Redeemer. This is Jewish tradition. Jacob Emanuel Shochet. He was a very prominent Jew in his day. They're up in Canada. So I found out live last week, or earlier this week. I think it was last week, but whatever. Life passes as if it were a dream. You do know that's from Jacob, right? And he begins to gather those who believe and are waiting for the coming. Believers who have been scattered. And he builds the temple with the Holy of Holies. And he will be assassinated by the enemy, who will steal his religion, corrupt the temple, and post a different god. Second Nephi, chapter 3. Let's see if there's a pattern match. Wherefore, verse 5, Joseph of Egypt truly saw our day. It's referring to Seer, because you see Seer repeated numerous times afterward. And he obtained a promise of the Lord that out of the fruit of his loins, a descendant of Joseph of Egypt, the Lord God would raise up, human, not homoousion, a righteous branch unto the house of Israel, not the Messiah, Messiah ben David Moses III. Messiah ben Joseph is the one who prepares the people for the coming of Messiah ben David Moses III. Is this him? But a branch which was to be broken off, nevertheless, to be remembered. He's going to die in the covenants of the Lord, that the Messiah, ben David Moses III, should be made manifest unto the house of Israel, who join Messiah ben Joseph's church in the latter days, in the spirit of power. I just went over with you, Joseph Smith, he's got the gifts and powers of God, of the Spirit, with the key of Moses, David Moses the third. And he prepares Mormons for the coming of a Mormon. Just like Revelation 12 verse 7 said. A human Mormon who is to be the Messiah, the Christ. So Joseph Smith then tells you more precisely, section 103, verses 15 through 18. Behold, I say unto you the redemption of Zion. The latter days. Must needs come by power. What kind of power? Therefore I will raise up unto my people. Whose people is Joseph talking about, Mormons? A man who shall lead them like as Moses. The children of Israel. Ta-da. For Mormons are the children of Israel and the seed of Abraham, and must needs be led out of bondage. Oh, the enemy that murdered Joseph Smith and stole his church and destroyed the temple and placed a new God on the throne. By power and with a stretched out arm. And as your fathers were led at first, even so shall the redemption of Mormons be in Zion. So this Messiah ben David will reveal himself with the gifts and powers of the Spirit, seer, prophet, revelator, and translator, with the key of Moses, David, Moses, the third. To be the head of the church. So it's not Oaks, is it? This is why I go over with you section 107 lately. I revise the pretty pictures. Still need to put them all into a collection of one, but nonetheless. It's a hard knock life for me. Section 107 is the corporate governance for the Holy Melchizedek priesthood. Everything in there goes over the administration. And so, verses 2 through 4 and 53, Joseph makes it very clear that the hidden name that we use Melchizedek in place of is Emmanuel. That great prophet, Jesus. Isaiah, who gives you the name. So Joseph tells you, it's Emmanuel, guys. That's the hidden name. So verse 40, he's a literal descendant of King David Moses III. He's a real person, a real Pharaoh of Egypt. Not a fictional David, but a fictional Solomon. Those are prophecies, revelations, visions. Do not confuse the two. Verse 76, which is why I had to redo them. I put the wrong verse. It's his birthright blessing to lead the church, just like bishops being a direct descendant of Aaron. It's their birthright and blessing to be bishop. But for the president of the church, if you are the direct descendant of King David Moses III of the 18th dynasty of Egypt, it's yours. Hand it over, Oaks. Now. Verse 76. And saw the key of David Moses III to be the Christ, the Messiah. Human. 91. And then the gifts and powers of God in verse 92 for the Spirit. Seer, S. Prophet, P. Revelator, R. Translator, T. So by their fruits you shall know them. It's not just for profit. It's for all of them. All you have to do is judge them. But judge righteously by the fruit, not by your conclusions that he's not Jesus, therefore it's not him. Dumbasses. So, yeah, we didn't really need to go over these then, I guess, because blah, blah, blah. So, I keep a pulling thread, la, drink a jam of bread. Today is the 4th anniversary of when the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints attempted to assassinate me. Again. But this one was special. There's a prophecy, prediction of the future, by Zechariah in 13:6. I haven't done the scriptures yet. It's going on to at least a 2-hour video, it looks like. (13:6). So, let's read the context leading up to it. Verse 1. In that day, that's the latter days. So the Jewish author is referring to the 23rd of September 2017. They all know the day and the hour, by the way. It's not just the one of John, the Revelator. Isaiah knew it, because that's what the John author is doing for his date. Comes from Isaiah. There shall be a fountain opened to the house of David, Messiah ben David, and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem. But is it Jerusalem? Because now we know it's Mormons. Do you see how, knowing Joseph Smith and believing in him, you now can go and understand through the Spirit what other passages of Scripture are talking about. This is the Mormon for the inhabitants of Utah, Judah, Utah, Judah, Judah. Phonetically the same. Wild, huh? For sin and for uncleanness. Mormons are wicked. Shocker. They're trying to kill him. Of course they're wicked. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord of hosts, that I will cut off. Ooh, that's the word Joseph uses. The names of the idols out of the land. Jesus. For they shall no more be remembered. Because you're going to be corrected on history and understanding the scriptures. And also I will cause the prophets and the unclean spirits. Ooh, prophets and spirit is unclean together, to pass out of the land. And it shall come to pass that when any shall yet prophesy, then his father and his mother that begat him shall say unto him, Thou shalt not live. I'm going to kill you. For thou speakest lies in the name of the Lord. And his father and his mother that begat him shall thrust him through when he prophesieth. And it shall come to pass in that day that the prophets shall be ashamed every one of his vision when he hath prophesied. Neither shall they wear a rough garment to deceive. They wear lamb's wool to deceive. But yeah, I just exposed to you how the living prophets of Jesus have been exposed and have to keep changing the narrative to confuse Mormons to live in fear. They've been exposed. They are false. Run the test. But he shall say, I am no prophet. They deny the gifts and powers of prophecy. I am an husbandman, for man taught me to keep cattle from my youth. Human, denying the gifts and powers of God. And one shall say unto him, What are these wounds in thy hands? And then he shall answer, Those with which I was wounded in the house of my friends, the house of David, the house of Israel, Mormons. My people wounded me for being the promised Messiah to save them from the great and abominable church of Brigham Young. So Joseph Smith, there it is, gives section 45. This is not literal history, dumbasses. Get off my channel. Joseph Smith tells you, I'm going to prophesy about you in the latter days, just like them of old. And so it's not the Jews, it's Mormons. It's not Jerusalem, it's Utah. It's not the Jerusalem temple, it's the Salt Lake temple. It's not Jesus, it's the Mormon. (51 to 53). And then shall the Mormons look upon the Mormon Christ, who is the Christ, and say, What are these wounds in thine hands and in thy feet? Then shall they know that I am the Lord. For I shall say unto them, these are the wounds. These wounds are the wounds with which I was wounded in the house of my friends. He was betrayed. And so I am he who was lifted up, sign in the heavens. I am Jesus, no, Isaiah's Christ, that was crucified, Cairo. I am the Son of God. And then the Mormons shall weep because of their iniquities. Then shall they lament because they persecuted their king. It ain't the Jews who murdered Jesus. It was the Mormons who murdered Joseph Smith and attempted to murder their Messiah of the latter days. Betraying the heads of the church. Exposing how evil they are. So the 4-year anniversary, June 6th, 2022. Notice how he added feet to Zechariah. I've been telling you repeatedly over the years in the 10.4K videos that before the October conference 2021, the Southern Poverty Law Center leaked the secret combination by the evangelical that created the Left Behind series to overthrow the government of the United States of America by causing confusion and chaos over interpretations of the Constitution. To use religion, protected in the First Amendment, to deny the religious freedom, freedom of speech, the freedom of the press, the freedom of expression, to everybody else, to enforce evangelical interpretation upon everybody. And thus the latest videos leading up to all this. And the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is also a part of this. And so I do my conference videos. And after conference, I found the way to perfection, in which the Council for National Policy, I'm able to tie directly to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints through Cleon Skousen. Mark Skousen is now the one still with it. As the church had a Mormon myth because nobody knew the original source document until I had found it. The Way to Perfection, Joseph Fielding Smith Sr. The Council at Adam-on-Diamond, by Voice of the Priesthood, page 291. The transfer of government authority from the President of the United States to the President of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, encoded as Lucifer and Jesus. I found out from the documents the 200-year-old plot of this church to coup the government. And yeah, the last night video had him on diamond. It's not literal history. They know this. They made that up as code for their 200-year-old plot. And because I exposed them, 2020 I sued them. I parted the waters in 2021 because I warned people in 2020. And I sued in Pharaoh's court. I demonstrated the key of Moses. I've demonstrated the gifts and powers of God, of the Spirit. My #1 video, hello? That's why they're censoring me. That's why they're trying to murder me. That's why they tried to erase me from history. They're in panic mode because I showed, and they didn't believe it would happen. They've been lying and deceiving Mormons and the whole world while they organize their 200-year-old plot. And because I showed, they instead ran a test run in 2020. And because the test run didn't get fulfilled, they had to wait another 4 years for the 2024 election. And so in the meantime, they were doing other preparations. This is not a test run anymore. And so in like manner, 2020, 2021, 2022 is 2024, 2025, 2026. And yesterday, they attempted to again assassinate me in like manner that they attempted in 2022 after I exposed them and their 200-year-old plot. And they failed. It was a close call. Still haven't fully recovered, but I at least got food yesterday, eventually. But that's what happened. They cut off my funding. And they ordered to have me evicted. And by cutting off the funding, they cut off my food. But they were struggling because it took until June 6th. It was supposed to happen immediately at the end of December. Because they had made preparations to also murder my own mother. 12/21/21, right before the end of December, right before I was supposed to be evicted, with no funding, no food. The church at the beginning of 2021 was already preparing for this. They were furious that I sued them, even though they got the judges owned and operated. and I was a pro se with no experience as a lawyer, they could not let it go because they know who I am. And so in 2021, well, in August, I get a signed and dated death threat from the property manager, who said she is going to evict me next year in 2021. So in 2021, in January, the church donates millions of dollars to Gail Miller's concentration camps of hell of human trafficking, which none of the money goes to the homeless. It all is laundered to Gail Miller, and then she launders it back to the church through other programs that she got involved with, the Joseph Smith Papers, for example. And so Gail Miller was paid by the church to assassinate me in her concentration camp. They're planning on evicting me. The report also came out that the brand new concentration camps of hell of human trafficking are also drug exposed. But they're not running the test to have it shut down to be cleaned like the library downtown had to be. There's a site you can go to know which apartments or houses are closed down until cleaned of the drug exposure. And so people don't like to be exposed on this list because it means that it ruins the house values or the apartment values. Plus the expenditure of having to clean it. It's got to be done professionally. It's got to be tested to show it's no longer a health concern, because it causes damage. Drugs kill, kids. And the church is setting it up for me to be assassinated. They know I'm virgin territory for drugs. They're hoping to get me exposed. They're struggling to get me exposed to COVID, because they tried to do that all through 2020 and 2021, hoping that I would die from COVID, and I couldn't die. They've been trying to murder me. And so now they're setting things up, preparing to have me assassinated in the shelter. To have my property stolen, to be ruined financially. Finally, on June 6th, with several terminations of failures, I'm out. And I take the 200-pound Egyptian gold plates because I know of their value. The marshal was kind of confused. Don't you want to take clothes? This is more valuable. And I take the bus with a $10 all-day pass. It's always supposed to be 5. But they don't give change. All I had was 10. I just take it to the end of the line. And so I decide I'm being kicked out of Utah. And so I start hiking up the mountain, Mount Olivet. Not Olivet, Olympus. Zeus Olympius. Stanford knows what I'm talking about. And the Anonymous Mormon. And I put my foot on the mount. Carrying the 200-pound, I don't know what the exact measurement was. I'm using that as a symbol of Joseph Smith and the gold plates. Yeah, not only did I blister my hands, but also my feet. Wounded in my hands and Joseph Smith's edition of feet. And I would show you the pictures of the hands. I didn't take off my feet or take off the shoes to show the feet. Could have. But yeah, by preserving the laptop, because I couldn't hook up the tower. But yeah, those came too. That's why it was heavy. And so I couldn't make it to the top of the mountain. And that's why I was forced to go to the shelter. I didn't sleep at all that night. Did we put the, yeah, Greatest American Hero. I've already been to the tops of mountains before. And then the attempted assassination began. The way the homeless are treated is just criminal. And they don't let people know. They only cover in the news that people donate money. But none of the money goes to the homeless. Goes to Gail Miller. Goes to the employees. Minimally. Because businesses are allowed by the United States to hoard money at the top. So that they can claim that they're a charity or a shelter or other kind of business, and then screw everybody over, as the corporate leaders are the ones who are making all the money, who keep all the money. That's what Gail Miller does. And so when she does something big, like the ballpark, there's an ulterior motive. She got rid of Sandra Tanner with that project, evicting everybody from their homes, and thus evicting Sandra Tanner, the church's nemesis since the 80s. Gerald had already been dead, but that's why they did it. I did the interview there in 2022 with Sandra Tanner. Where she told me that she's having to leave. She's not sure if she would continue to publish and post. Most likely would do it online still, but yep. This church is evil. And so this year, they attempted to try to cut me off of my funding so that I couldn't pay for food. And when that failed, That's when I told you I see what they're doing, which is a pattern match from 2022. So Monday, and I tell you about it on Tuesday, Google AI denied me access to the grocery store website. And then when I complained and it got restored, sure enough, yesterday on Friday, I go in, put all the food in the cart, go and check it all out, go to pay. Oh, the internet went down. Google AI shut down their internet again. Or not Google AI, Internet AI, whatever AI the store uses. They'd done this before. It was, I think it was back in the fall of 2023, where I go downtown to get my food at the Super Smiths and brought some stuff to the checkout. Went to start checking them out, and the cashier lady says, our internet is down for the card machines. You know, you can only pay by cash. We don't do cash anymore. Everything is digital on cards. Soon to be crypto. I said, no, I don't have any money. What the hell? So yeah, I couldn't do anything. Had to go home and not have food that day. Had to go back another day to get stuff. All because of AI and their running of fire sales. But now, they're no longer running fire sales. They're now running catastrophe scenarios, 9/11 events. That's not the one. This is the one. So when I do the videos warning you about California having a chemical leak, Washington having a chemical implosion, Texas having a gas explosion, Florida having a rocket explosion, and then now, last night, it's not quite, it's different. Texas again. An AI car interfered with first responders to an apartment fire. But all dealing with AI. What happened to me this past week with Amazon also? AI. Specifically targeted. I'm sure nobody else had this problem that I did. And you saw yesterday morning's video where I am cyber attacked live in the recording with the freezing of the camera. And then the 2.5 hour recording for the evening video, no problem at all. Weird. That's because of shift workers. A human is cyber attacking. When AI fails, a human steps in to do it, to attack me, to murder me, being denied a basic living of basic necessity items. This is what the church is ordering, because they can't come to grips by telling Mormons the truth that they're a fraud. Their authority is in jeopardy. They deny the gifts and powers of the Spirit. They're posting another God for you to worship, who's not real. And they're panicked because of me. They can't get YouTube to fully shut me up, to censor me. Like I said, I got another breakout video. I don't understand how it happens, but YouTube is the one who does it, not me. I just do the videos. YouTube determines what's going to be the breakouts. but it's not really much of a breakout. 144 for the previous breakout of their causation, forcing me to post it twice. And now the new one, which is the Danite one. This is all in the documents that I got it from. If the church didn't want us to know about it, they shouldn't have published the documents. Do you not understand this? The church leaks and posts the evidence against them. They confess they're a fraud. They're the enemy. They're evil. They're going to murder all mankind. And anybody who reads them is punished? Can you say stupid, boys and girls? So, yeah, they failed this time. And that's why I'm curious about the coming day. Remember, I had dreams, Oaks. I had a dream. The first one was on the 29th of May, in which a log cabin home was burned. My home. But other people were living in my home. I had my own room at the back. And it was fully engulfed in flames. And we were putting out the fire. It was a dream. It was not real. Because if it was real, we would need oxygen tanks and fireman suits. Because otherwise we would collapse from smoke inhalation. I've been a firefighter. I know, because of the one tragedy that we went to one morning. I've told you about that one. So yes, supernatural stuff happens in dreams because they're not real. They're visions. And so after this dream, I'm then wondering, well, there was no date, and I just didn't think about it until the next night when I had another one of a transfer of authority. Now I understood the 29th of May dream. The fall with a burning, and then the transfer of authority. Oh, but I'm not seeing a date given. Can't figure out where a date is. There's supposed to be a date. If it's a prophecy dream, where's the date? But on the 29th, when looking up at the heavens, that's what I was inspired to check. And sure enough, wouldn't you know it? We got some stuff coming. But until it happens, I need fruit. I can't live by faith alone. It pisses me off. And so, yeah, the skies for June, for example, has Venus with Jupiter on the 9th. And then the 8th is the third quarter moon. But I'm checking things out. I checked the Jewish calendar. Monday, the 8th, is when Mordecai, tells Esther, about the utter destruction of the Mormons. the Jews under Persian rule, and Haman is going to assassinate him. So the Holocaust, even though it was a gallows to murder the Jews on, and apparently it was going to be a year from then. But Mordecai and Esther sends out the letters to all the Jews. So I see this by using the Spirit, because this isn't literal history, as I made sure to have you understand. That the Jews are supposed to prepare themselves for the annihilation plan orchestrated by Haman. And that's why all this week I'm doing the warning of the annihilation plan of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And the Danite video is the new breakout. The one I did that had to be duplicated was the original breakout. And that was the 1st of June. This is after my dreams, when I know that something's there and I'm checking things out to try to figure out a date. Right, Nelson? I've been warning you all this year. This is not a test run anymore. All last year. Oaks got leaked. 2020 and 2021 was a test run. There's same stuff going on. I'm parting the waters in real time again. And it's worse than the last time when I parted the waters. I'm the guy. What does it take to get through to Mormons? They want to believe in not real physical homuzion rather than a real human who's one of them? Yeah. Mormons want to murder me. The church is grateful for anybody who can murder me. And yet, still nonetheless, nope. And I am still warning you with the Spirit to try to save your lives of the annihilation plan that Oaks has to murder you, Mormons. Thus why, knowing the Spirit, having taught it to you already again in this video, hopefully now, if you're still listening, as we're going on to 2 hours and 30 minutes, still not, there's some things to watch out for. And so I made sure to get them all covered. And we'll put them all in this video for you too. So that there'll even be a larger time of the video. And so from Jupiter and Venus to Mercury to the Sun to the Aretids to Mars to the Moon to the Ophiokids, the 3 They all have significance. The Aretids peaked last month, right? So I'm pretty sure I already did those videos. Sim Gill, you bastard. You noticed last month, previously I've been telling you that Sim Gill always lets the cops get away with murdering people. But last month, Sim Gill did not allow a cop to get away with murder. I'm going, what the hell? What is he doing? What's going on? And so YouTube, for the last week, I've seen 2 advertisements by Sim Gill. He's running for office. That's why he didn't let the cop get away with murder. Bastard. But Sim Gill also revealed he's an illegal citizen. SCOTUS hasn't made their decision and ruling yet, but Trump really wants them to go in his favor to do away with birthright citizenship. That's Sim Gill. He's got birthright citizenship. His parents are immigrants to America. He's illegal. Oh, crap. Aretids do peak in June. And it's a 4-day event. Oh, crap. Oh, crap. It's the 7th through the 10th, so I've got to go back and add those. Oh, crap, Oaks. So we get this snapshot. Okay. Oh, crap, Oaks. You busted. Oh, crap. I tried to warn these guys. No hard feelings. Even though you can never restore the damage you've done to me. Aretids, 7th through the 10th. Oh, crap. So there was one last month, but there's a whole 4 days this month. And it starts tomorrow. And yep, goes with the other. Oh my hell. Yeah, there's something here, guys. But until fruit shows, this is just the sign in the heavens. Like I described at the beginning for you. Unbelievable. So, yep, in case you didn't know, Mars is Oaks. It was Nelson. Baby name meaning even. Wow, cool. How'd you know, Isaiah? Spirit. Russell Marion is Red Star of the Sea, Mars. And so I've been paying attention this whole time for you, doing the 10.4K videos over the 10 years, going over this repeatedly. Mormons don't believe and they want to murder me. My #1 video, and still they won't believe. No, church is true, Jesus. No, the church is gonna murder you. And so, yeah, that's what's coming. Oh my God. So I've got to, wow. So there's Mars in the sacrificial ram-lamb constellation with the falling stars at the tail. For a 4-day week. Oh crap, folks. And yeah, the church is falling. But this Mordecai Esther letter is what I've been telling you about for the final 4. The fall, transfer, the Exodus, and then the building of Zion. To get the Exodus has to have the transfer, so that I have all of the contact information of the bishops and stake presidents who then put out the call, the letter, the extermination of mankind. You need to gather. This is what I've been talking to you about, and it comes from section 133 in connection with section 85 of the Doctrine and Covenants. The one mighty and strong. And so section 85, you have me, spoiler alert, get off my channel, who sets in order the temple, but who also arranges by lot the inheritance of the saints for Zion, whose names are found in the names of their fathers and of their children enrolled in the book of the law of God. I've gone over this repeatedly, especially after Thanksgiving's 6-hour video recording series after the Nelson rushed out Brigham Young's version of the book of the law called a ledger, for which Al Capone got thrown in prison finally for tax evasion. That was Brigham Young's version, and they posted it. So my Thanksgiving was spent recording it and making the videos, for which I then posted the next day. I don't know if the series is still up on my homepage or not, but you can find it in the playlist. Dear God. And so, yeah, the leaders of the church have apostatized. They're denying the gifts and powers, they're trying to murder everybody, etc., etc., etc. So they're not coming to Zion, guys. Unless an Alma wants to step forward. But don't think you're going to be the guy. Not find an inheritance among the saints of Emmanuel. So, to notify and to obtain this book of the law, I need to have access to the records of the church, of everybody's membership record, even those who leave. You guys can come too. Even those who aren't members, you can now join still and be put in the book of the law. But you got to obey the one law of agency. Life, liberty, property. You give it, and then you can receive it. But if you start pulling crap of lies and anti-scientific method, don't bother coming. You're only going to try to destroy Zion. If you talk about Jesus as the Christ, get out. You've already seen the damage that Jesus Christ has caused upon mankind. No more. And don't put in some other God either. No more. We're living in reality from here on out. No more Hamuzion. Dear God, why is this so hard for Mormons and people to understand? So, I need to be able to contact the stake presidents to have the members and those who want to come. And thus the letter There's an annihilation coming. It's supposed to be before, not after. And it's coming quick. I mean, yeah, there's sort of a pause going on for this summertime as we're building up for the election, but clearly there's going to be some coming problems for the election. Trump has already made sure of it. With Section 133 is that letter of Mordecai and Esther. Hearken, O ye people of my church, saith the Lord your God. Hear the word of the Lord concerning you, the Lord who shall suddenly come to his temple. This is not Joseph Smith and Kirtland. The Lord who shall come down upon the world with a curse to judgment, upon all nations that forget God, and upon all the ungodly among you. For he shall make bare his holy arm in the eyes of all the nations, and all the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of their God. Wherefore prepare ye, O my people. Sanctify yourselves, gather ye together, O ye people of my church, upon the land of Zion. All ye that have not been commanded to tarry, because you're not welcome. You stay behind to get burned. Go ye out from Babylon. Be ye clean that bear the vessels of the Lord, for Zion, for the storehouse. Call your solemn assemblies, speak often one to another, and let every man call upon the name of the Lord. The whole earth of Mormons must be notified and attend a meeting where this letter that I'm supposed to be writing is supposed to be read for you, so that those who want to come to Zion be interviewed, to be put in the book of the law, so that I will know who's coming, so that we can make sure that only those who want to come and will obey the one law of agency will come. Yea, verily I say unto you again, the time has come when the voice of the Lord is unto you. Go ye out of Babylon, gather ye out from among the nations, from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. This is not stay where you are, scattered around the earth. And so send the elders out and enlarge the membership of the church. That's for Joseph Smith's time. Yea, let the cry go forth among all people, awake and arise, and go forth to meet the bridegroom. Parable of the 10 virgins. Behold, and lo, the bridegroom cometh. Go ye out to meet him. And I've already done the videos about the dates given in the parable of the 10 virgins. That is also in Doctrine and Covenants 45. They were the full moons and the lunar eclipses in Virgo in the same year. And so they only occurred in 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2024, I screwed it up, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2024, 2025. 10. 2 sets of 5. 10 virgins. Wise, who have light. The foolish, who don't. Full moons. Lunar eclipses. In Virgo. Virgins. Remember Spirit? And so those are the dates of the latter days. Here we are. This is it. prepare yourself for the great day of the Lord. Watch, therefore, for ye know neither the day nor the hour. He had yet to get to Revelation 12. And he didn't even know from section 45. And let them who are of Utah flee unto Jerusalem, to the mountains of the Lord's house. Notice mountains in the plural, Lord's house. Yeah, 19 July 1840. Joseph Smith says Zion and New Jerusalem are the mountain cities of the Lord. Here in America, not Jerusalem. Go ye out from among the nations, even from Babylon, the great and abominable church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, from the midst of wickedness, which is spiritual Babylon. Thus saith the Lord, let your flight, not your flight, be in haste, lest all things be prepared before you, and he that goeth, let him not look back, lest he turn into a pillar of the great salt lake. Again, referring to the destruction of Sodom. Hearken and hear, O ye inhabitants of the earth. Listen, ye elders of my church. Hear the voice of the Lord. For he calleth upon all men, and he commandeth all men everywhere to repent. Lord God hath sent forth angels, messengers, crying through the midst of heaven, signs in the heavens, not literal history angels, saying, prepare ye the way of the Lord, make his paths straight, for the hour of his coming is nigh. He's there. When the Lamb shall stand upon Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, that's all? That's all who's coming? Wow. That should be enough to at least get it going. Hopefully, there's a variety of different technical skills that are knowledgeable among these 144,000. Then you'll all receive a baseball cap with the sun god at noonday in your forehead. Rather than MAGA of the beast. Yeah. Hello? Already did the videos. Wherefore prepare ye for the coming of the bridegroom. Go ye out to meet him. Who has the Spirit and is studying the Scriptures with the Spirit, and who's not? It's not complicated. That's why I've been trying to teach you. That's why I've been letting you know. That's why my #1 video teaches you. So that Mormons would be studying this whole time. And that's why I've been deeply concerned. We're heading for a complete and utter disaster of the whole human race. There will be no Zion if there is nobody righteous. He's promising 144,000. I don't see it. But yeah, there are a lot of Mormons outside this valley, even though there are a lot in this valley who are exiting the church. West Valley was the latest to leave. There are more leaving the church than joining. But because they're not having their names taken off the records, they're still being counted as members. That's why year after year the church is always able to claim, hey, we got an increase, oh, record breaking. Subtract the number of Mormons who left. They won't do that. They have everybody's record, even if you take your name off the records. They just put a notation there so that when missionaries find you and take the information to the ward clerk and the ward clerk requests the records, it'll say, no, this person's excommunicated. Leave them alone. They're evil. They requested their names be removed. So that's how it works. But nonetheless. And so utter his voice out of Jerusalem, and he shall speak from, or utter his voice out of Zion, and shall speak from Jerusalem. Voice shall be heard among all the people gathered there. That's when it's completed. So yeah, the robotic automation technology is ideal to be used to build it. And so if anybody knows how to build them, great, because otherwise we need the transfer of authority with the transfer of all the trillions of the church so that we can pay for the automation to do the building. I have seen how it can work. It can be done. The church, for a small example, the aprons, it has the sewing marks on them for the temple. Yeah. At Beehive Clothing, they have a sewing machine that's a robotic automation. It's programmed with the design of the apron. And so all they do is put the apron into the sewing machine, and it automatically does all the pattern all by its lonesome. And that's how we can build Zion, is through that automation process. There will be no errors. There will be no AI programming in it. No AI allowed in Zion. So, yeah, if you think you're going to be bringing your AI technology, it ain't coming in. There will be no projection counting. So, wow, that was intense. So yeah, the thing about AI, Bill Maher also again ripped everybody a new one again on this. He says that the students who are graduating are not getting jobs because of AI. And they're condemning the speakers at the graduation ceremonies who are promoting AI. But the students themselves are using AI to submit their work. And then the teachers are using AI to grade the work by AI. Oh my hell. Nobody's learning anything that way. School is not teaching kids anymore. That will not be allowed in Zion. We are not using the current public school system method that was still used back in my day, where you just memorize information and regurgitate the memorized information. That is not how you learn. You know nothing but to be a contestant on Jeopardy. You have no application in real life with memorization. In the medical profession, yeah, you have to memorize the names of all the bones and muscles and veins and all that crap so that you can communicate that way. But you have to have actual apprenticeship, hands-on experience as a medical doctor, performing surgeries, running the tests to diagnose the causation, not do symptom management of feelings, which is psychology, a fraud. No psychology allowed in Zion, by the way. If that's what your education was and you think you're going to bring it to Zion, stay behind. You get to tarry. No psychos in Zion. Truth and science only. So, yeah, if you can live that one law, great. Come on in. And only 144,000, huh? Which, yeah, he's referring to Revelation about that. Wow. Okay, so again, I have had my hopes dashed to pieces before, but this time we got dreams. So we're in it. We're in it. And again, the church failed to murder me. So that's also significant. Oh, my hell. And yeah, the video that is my #1 video, I should tell you this too because it applies. I did that video only because the little woman at the time, who soon after left me, chased out, technically. Everybody ganged up on me to murder me. And so they needed her out of the picture. And she again emailed me the other day. Still doesn't get it. She's supposed to be dead any time now. Assuming that she is correct on the diagnosis she was given. She has cancer. And the cancer, as I checked, untreated, she's going to die soon. So it was last year when she told me. But nonetheless, she's still alive, still wanting me back in the church. Repent, Travis, and come back to church. She thinks I'm married too. She's not thinking clearly. She's been severely abused by this church. Nonetheless, she told me that I need to tell her the date for the Exodus. Because she doesn't want to walk. I'm like, what did... we're just starting out. Line upon line. Nonetheless, I didn't know. We just got started with the latter days. I hadn't even reached the 23rd of September 2017 yet. We're still in July. Which, oh, wow. 9 years later, huh? Yeah. Wow. Yeah, the 16th of June, so it is in July, and the 2nd of July is a Jewish, that's, wow. And then the 23rd of July also. Oh, wow. Yeah, Tammuz. Yeah. Oh, wow. Exodus. I can feel it coming in the air and dying. Faith only. So that video was made because she demanded I give her the date. So I went over with you the solar eclipse, sign in the heavens, and then the 23rd of September, sign in the heavens, and then threw in some other stuff of potentials. And the one that I put in to satisfy her was the Sunday lesson on the Exodus of Brigham Young fleeing the country. Oh, that's interesting. Plus the Adam and Eve video that I did with the fall last night, which is not the breakout yet. The other one was the breakout, the Danai one. So I don't know if the Adam and Eve one will be a breakout. But yeah, when I do these videos, they're all coming to the top of my head. And to close with a scripture for you as to why is the scriptures that I went over with you about raising up a human being who's the Christ from the law of the Jews, Deuteronomy, chapter 18, which Joseph Smith frequently repeated, as well as the Book of Mormon, verses 15 through 19. Lord God will raise up unto thee a prophet from the midst of thee, of thy brethren, a Mormon, like unto Moses. Unto him shall ye hearken. And it's verse 18, right? Yeah. I will raise them up a prophet from among their brethren, like unto thee, and will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak unto them all that I shall command him. I've repeated this all these 10.4K videos over 10 years. All you had to do was study my word, since you guys don't know, to study Deuteronomy 18, to go, does Travis speak whatever comes to his mind and is inspiring? Yeah. You're supposed to be running these tests. Mormons won't do it. No! Which? Verse 10. Did it again. And I say these things in the name of Isaiah's Christ, Emmanuel. Hilarious. I also need to cover the KSL thing here before we end. KSL says they're doing a deep dive into the SCOTUS pick, or the Scout pick by Cox. No, they're not. It's the church's channel. It's the church's news. They're doing a bio on how cool and faith-promoting they are to pick them for Scout. Don't be fooled. They're not investigating how the church committed a crime to get Cox to commit a crime to get them in. They'll never confess.